Recently, I recorded a video outside and a guy came up to me. He was around 60 years old and we started to talk about life. After a while of talking, he told me that he had been thinking about university for 15 years. He had been thinking about attending university from the age of 45 to the age of 60 for 15 years, even though university only takes 3 to 5. And while it's obvious that he is just very bad at making decisions, to put it softly, a lot of people live this way actually. Instead of doing a semester abroad or not doing a semester abroad, they will spend years thinking about it. They will spend years thinking about a decision which only takes like 6 months. And so, the goal of this video is to help you decide whether you should do a semester abroad or not. And it won't take 3 years. It will take roughly 15 minutes. And you may ask me, why am I qualified to make this video? Well, I'm in university myself. I've been a year into medical engineering and I just came home from visiting a friend who does a semester abroad in the Canary Islands. And so I have a transformed perspective. And also, you may not know this, my goal is to inspire 10,000 good decisions. And as such, talking about such a decision is kind of what my job is. And so, let's get started. And by the way, check out the link in my description if you like reading. So let's get started. The first criterion whether you should do a semester abroad or not is whether you want speed. If you want to get done with university as quickly as possible, a semester abroad is about the worst thing that you can do. While the courses may align exactly, usually they don't, and you lose a lot of time because you not only don't have some modules, but the modules that you do have often aren't recognized by your university, and as such you study 6 months without getting any credit points in your university. Thus you have to repeat that semester. You have to repeat even more if you don't have the basic courses. Like for instance, if you go away in the 3rd semester, you may miss the modules that are required for the 4th semester, and thus you have to repeat an entire year. So it's not that a semester abroad takes 6 months, it's most likely the case that it takes a year. And you can look this up into your statistics of your university if it publishes some. Furthermore, the calendars may not align exactly. So your exams may end in September, but another university semester may already start in August. So you either sacrifice your exams or you sacrifice a part of that new semester. Both are kind of bad if you want speed. And by the way, if you want good grades, a semester abroad is also bad because your grades are going to suffer if you switch. Change makes things usually worse, and it takes a while for change to get better. So if your goal is good grades or speed, the answer is a definite 100% no. There is of course the possibility that the stars align, but most likely it won't be the case. Now, if your goal isn't speed, your goal may be status. If your goal is status, it depends. You see, while studying in a village university, to then study in a village university in another country won't bring you more status. Doing a semester abroad in Harvard certainly does. So if your goal is status, it really depends on the school to which you're switching to. However, status is always irrelevant if you study something irrelevant. If you study art, it doesn't really matter at which university because you're gonna work as a barista anyway. But if you study something like math or engineering, then studying at a village university versus at MIT absolutely makes a difference. And so if you have that possibility to transition to an elite university with a university with a lot more status than yours, go for it. But most universities are mediocre. And switching from a mediocre university to another mediocre university will do absolutely nothing if your goal is status. Now, what if your goal isn't status but adventure? And in this case, the answer is 50-50. There are so many ways to get adventure, you know. For instance, as I mentioned, I just returned from the Canary Islands. I went there for 5 days and I experienced so much. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that it were even 5 days. And my friend who studies there didn't experience nearly the same, because guess what? He has to go to university while I can spend my days just traveling around. And so it is that if you have a semester abroad, you are most likely going to spend most of your time doing homework, attending the lessons, and so you won't actually have that much time to explore the place. And even if you do explore the place, if you spend 6 months there, the novelty is going to wear off kind of quickly. And so I would say 6 months of semester is kind of like 2 or 3 weeks worth of adventure, and then it's just repetitive again. And so if your goal is adventure, a semester abroad is more adventurous than one at home, but it's also the case that the novelty wears off and that you will be busy most of the time doing homework. So you can have much more adventure if you study domestically and then go on a trip, or if you study domestically and then start a business, or if you work towards a very exciting goal. Maybe your goal is to win a fitness competition. If you have exciting goals, it doesn't make sense to hope that a semester abroad will be adventurous, because chances are the novelty is going to wear off and you're going to spend most of your time studying anyway. But a semester abroad is still more adventurous than a domestic semester, most of the time at least. And so if you want adventure, the answer can't be decided. You must refer to another criterion. Now, what if your criterion is language and culture? If you want language and culture, which is kind of related to adventure, the answer is yes. And there is nothing I have to add here. Like, if you want to be great at Spanish, obviously go to the Canary Islands and study there, or go to Spain and study there, go to Mexico and study there. The choices are endless. Although you probably should go to Mexico because the people there aren't as wealthy as in Spain, and so you may lose a lot of status by studying there. So just study in Spain if you want to learn Spanish. And so, what if you don't want adventure language? What if you don't want culture language, but want to get away from your parents? While doing a semester abroad may seem like a great way to get away from your parents, it's actually a very bad decision, because if you feel tired of your parents, it's an emotional decision. And if you then switch locations, that emotional decision may go in any direction. So you may start to feel as if you miss your parents, you may start to feel as if you're tired of your parents, you may start to feel lonely, you may start to feel socially overwhelmed. So all sorts of extremes are possible if you act on emotion. So if you want to get away from your parents, it makes more sense to switch to a university further away than yours, rather than a university which is in a completely different country. And by the way, throughout this video I have said semester abroad, referring to any university that is further away than your current university is, and any university that is in another country. Obviously, switching to another university in another town isn't as big of a deal. However, you may still lose a lot of time and have a lot less adventure at that. So it's kind of a useless transition unless you have a very specific reason. Hence, I focus mostly on switching to another country, to university in another country to study a semester abroad. Now, if you want to get away from your parents, it also can't be decided because it's an emotional decision. And so, if you don't have another reason and getting away from your parents is the only one, the answer is no. But if you have another reason, if you want to get away from your parents and also want some adventure and also want a bit of culture, then go for it. But if it's the only reason, no. Now, let's say you want to find direction, and that's why you're doing a semester abroad. Unfortunately, I must also say no to this one because there is no certainty that you will get direction. You see, when you do a semester abroad, you are guaranteed to explore a new culture, and you are guaranteed to learn a new language. You are also guaranteed some adventure, and you are also guaranteed that you will switch. You are not guaranteed, however, to get direction. Hence, if direction is your primary motivation, the answer is no. If it's a secondary or a tertiary motivation, then maybe. The thing is, direction is very, very complicated, and trying a very simple solution like doing a gap year, studying abroad, or stuff like that usually doesn't work. And you know, some people live their whole life without ever finding a direction. They finish school and study economics because they don't know what they want to do. Then they get into a consulting job because they don't actually know what they want to do. Then they work at a consulting job for a few years. Then they maybe switch to a bank, and they spend their whole life without finding direction. So direction is very important. Don't get me wrong, it is basically the most important thing that you have in your life. But a semester abroad isn't guaranteed to give it to you. And so, if you feel the need for direction, there is many other things that you can do. For instance, internships, you can work jobs, you can attend industry fairs and get direction. But chances are a semester abroad won't be as effective as doing internships. And so the answer is also a 50-50 with a tendency towards no because of that uncertainty. You are not guaranteed to find direction. And yeah, so let's move on to the final one. Do you have a very specific reason you want to go? The answer then is yes. So let's say you have a very certain degree program, a very certain research equipment, a very certain hot blonde, or something like that you have in that country. If you have a girlfriend in that country, it absolutely makes sense. If you have a certain degree there that you don't have domestically, go for it. If you have certain research equipment, then go for it. And so if you have a very specific reason, it's kind of the very best motivation, because then you have a rational foundation from which you can then build something. And if you have the rational foundation right, everything else will follow, and you will have a lot more capability for adventure, for culture, for getting away from your parents. All these reasons amplify if the rational foundation is there. So if you have a very specific reason, go for it, and I will gladly support you. And so I've just realized that I forgot to discuss money. Obviously, if you don't have enough money and you don't have good reasons to go, then don't go. If you have enough money and enough reason to go, then go. If you have very much reason but not enough money, it's up to you to decide. I can't decide that for you, because draining your parents financially, if they are especially poor, is not the best thing that you can do. But in German they say, wo ein Wille, da ein Weg, which translates to, if you want it, you can get it. And so, what if you don't know your goal? What if you don't know whether you want adventure, culture, to get away from parents, speed? What if you don't know what you want? Well, in this case, the answer is no, because the answer for most things with uncertainty is no. Let's say you don't know whether you want to date that one 6 out of 10 or not. In that case, the answer is a very clear no, because if you wanted to date her, we wouldn't have this discussion. And the same applies here. If you don't know whether you should do a big decision, most of the time the answer is no, because the decisions that need to be done almost always feel very obvious, at least in retrospect. But if you don't know your goal, just going for it may work out, you might have a great time, but I would say in around 2/3 of cases you'll come to realize that it was kind of useless. That's just how life is. That's just what happens when you act on uncertainty, when you don't know your goals and your motivations. So the answer is a slight no, but if you still want to go for it, then do so. If my no has offended you, has tensed your solar plexus, you should go, because your emotions are telling you that you should. And unless you have very great reasons to override your intuition, I don't see a problem. So in that sense, if this video offended you, if you didn't like me saying no so many times, this is actually a sign that you should go and you should find out. Because if you don't, you may regret it very much. And now, why will I never study abroad? The answer is quite simple. You can do internships abroad. That means you can work in another country for 6 months and get paid and experience the culture and have adventure and get away from your parents. All these things apply at the same time. And you also get paid and you don't lose time. So this is why I will do my internship, which I have because I study medical engineering, in another country. I will probably go to Texas or to Italy or to Spain or to France. I don't quite know. But if I can have all the benefits without losing time, without having any of the negatives that come from studying abroad, I will do an internship abroad and have a great time there. And so, I hope this video helped you decide. If it did, subscribe. If it didn't, leave 50 hate comments, unsubscribe, and click do not recommend the channel. If that's a fair deal, then subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.